Lots of stuff to get into. Playoff weekend is here. The New England Patriots will be hosting the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs will be hosting the Indianapolis Colts tomorrow. Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, will be visiting the New Orleans Saints, the number one seed in the NFC. And, of course, the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow night will be visiting Los Angeles, where they're scheduled to go up against the Los Angeles Rams. I got news for you. I think Dallas could win this game. Are you ready for that? Don't faint. I actually think the Dallas Cowboys have a pretty damn good chance of winning this game. The Los Angeles Rams lead the NFL in surrendering 5.1 yards per rush. They've been highly suspect against the run. If you run the football, then Aaron Donald doesn't get to just salivate at the mouth at an opportunity to get all over Dak Prescott. Questionable as to whether or not Ndamukong Suh will show up. So when you look at it from that perspective, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, feed Ezekiel Elliott the football all day, every day. Now, having said all of that, because it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Having said all of that, ain't no way in hell I'm picking the Cowboys. Because what can go wrong will go wrong. They'll find a way, damn it. Now, preferably, I actually think it would be nice for them to win and then get ramrodded by New Orleans, who I believe are going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. But if Sean McVay and these boys show up and handle their business at LA Coliseum tomorrow night in LA, a game in which I will be at, all you Cowboy fans, you disgusting, nauseating fan base that you are, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there, Lord willing. I'm trying to get there. A lot depends on the pilot and the airlines, but my intent is to be there. I'm telling you right now, I would listen. As long as whatever makes the Cowboy fan most miserable is fine with me. But in all seriousness, Cowboys can beat this Rams team. And the reason why I bring that up is because it transitions me to Sean McVay. Sean McVay, the golden boy of coaches in the National Football League. Let me be very, very clear. I love Sean McVay. I think he's an exceptional coach. I think he seems like a great guy. He's married to football. He's on top of his game. He knows what he's doing. He's resurrected this Rams franchise. I've had the pleasure of meeting a few people that work within the Rams organization. Bunch of great people there. And I'm really genuinely rooting for the Rams to have some success. And I ain't going to lie, there's nothing wrong with being in Southern California. But I will say this. If Sean McVay loses this game, it will be the second year in a row he has guided this team to the postseason with an impressive regular season run, only to fail to win a single playoff game. So do I think there's some pressure on Sean McVay? You're damn right I do. But I'll tell you somebody else. And I tell you folks who are the folks that should feel the most pressure. In the event that the Rams lose this game, and it has anything to do with insufficiencies on the part of its head coach, it should be all these damn owners who bought into all of these offensive minds when it comes to the head coaching circle throughout the National Football League. The Johnsons with the Jets choosing Adam Gase. The Arizona Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury with a K. Tampa Bay to a lesser degree with Bruce Arians because he's proven. Green Bay with Matt LaFleur. I'm not going to even call him LaFleur, John. Matt LaFleur. LaFleur. What did you do with the Titans that you deserve the privilege of coaching Aaron Rodgers? So I gave you 4 right there, and now we got a 5th one coming down the pike because if the reports are anyway truthful, if there's any veracity to the reports, haven't you heard the news, ladies and gentlemen? Zach Taylor, the quarterback's coach for the Los Angeles Rams under Sean McVay is about to get the job as the head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. So you had 8 openings. You're going to have 7 jobs filled if this is true. Not one single minority. All white dudes. Nobody's debating Vic Fangio. He deserves it. Nobody's debating Bruce Arians. He deserved it. But now we go on the route of Zach Taylor, a quarterback's coach under McVay in L.A., along with Kingsbury, Gase, and his mediocre record, LaFleur in Green Bay, and let me not forget Mr. Fred Kitchens in Cleveland, because he worked for 5 minutes with Baker Mayfield, and now he's the second coming. Now, my man Louis Riddick, NFL insider and analyst extraordinaire, particularly when it comes to NFL front offices, made a very adroit and an astute point when he highlighted the fact that you got a lot of these guys that have a history and a reputation of working with quarterbacks. And because they had a history of working with quarterbacks, that's the umbilical cord that the owners and league executives have used to justify hiring all of these guys as head coaches. My question would be this. I know Eric Bieniemy for the Kansas City Chiefs ain't calling plays, but this black man that's the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs happens to be the offensive coordinator for the number 1 ranked offense in the entire National Football League. Number 1 in yards, number 1 in points, number 3 passing attack. Excuse me, ain't that working with a quarterback? Look at me when I'm talking to you, John. Even though he ain't calling the plays, is Eric Bieniemy not working with the quarterback? If you're the offensive coordinator, you working with the quarterback, how come he didn't get the job? How come he didn't get the job? I mean, this stuff sticks to the high heavens. Nancy Amore for the USA Today, presumably piggybacking off of me, but maybe she didn't, astutely pointed out the disgraceful situation that's been taking place in terms of minority coaches not getting hired. But it's amazing to me the excuses. And somebody said this too. When it comes to some of these white candidates, you know something? You look for an excuse to give them the job. When it comes to minorities, you're looking for the first reason for them to lose their jobs or to not give them a job. Double standards, inequality, all the things that we lament in our society today. Don't look to Capitol Hill. Don't look to the president. Don't look to people like that talking about what's going on in our country. Look at the NFL. This happening right here in sports. At least politics has the backdrop of always being about politics, nepotism, and who you know, and glad handing, and gerrymandering, and all the other names you could come up with. Corruption or whatever you want to call it. It's always been synonymous with politics. Last time I checked, sports was supposed to be a meritocracy. The proverbial glass ceiling was supposed to be eradicated before our very eyes. Well, how's that working out? Y'all are so full of it. But I digress. First order of business that the Rams got to win this game. And I'm hoping they don't let me down and they handle their business against the Cowboys. I'm hoping that Todd Gurley is healthy and ready to go. I'm hoping that Aaron Donald resembles the stud that he is. I'm hoping that the APB that was put out for Ndamukong Suh, who's a very nice guy, by the way. He actually gets a bad rap as a person because he's actually a nice guy. But Ndamukong Suh has got to show up. Aqib Talib, I got nothing but faith in this brother. He's going to show up. Marcus Peters, I'm not so sure, but I hope you do. Aqib Talib seems to have a positive effect. And by the way, while we're talking about Sean McVay and why I say more pressure should be on Sean McVay, I'm going to tell you why. Because as much as Jared Goff has looked bad over the last month or so, don't get me started with his performance against the Bears a few weeks back. Guess what? Even when he was playing great, Sean McVay was getting credit. So guess what? If McVay don't show up tomorrow night, I'm going to look at McVay. I'm sorry, if Goff doesn't show up tomorrow night, I'm going to look at McVay. And you know why else I'm going to look at McVay? Because Wade Phillips is your defensive coordinator. One of the elite defensive minds in all of football. Well, why the hell do you have the 20th ranked defense? You got to keep Talib Marcus Peters. You got Ndamukong Suh. You acquired all of them in the offseason. You still got Aaron Donald there. You got Fowler from Jacksonville. What's the problem? Figure it out. Figure it out. And Wade Phillips is familiar with Jason Garrett and what Jason Garrett likes to do. Wade Phillips is a former Cowboy coach. The fact that he's there should be a problem for the Cowboys. It shouldn't be a reason for them to salivate at the mouth. He should be disrupting their plans. It shouldn't be the other way around. So Wade Phillips has to show up too. And since Sean McVay hired him, it's another reason to look at Sean McVay. Now I believe in Sean. And I like Sean. And Sean is safe. Sean is one of the young stud coaches this game has seen. And he's a big culprit as to why these young, no-name, unproductive dudes have been getting jobs. Because everybody's trying to find the next Sean McVay. So I'm paying attention to all of that. I hope you are too. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. This is one of the things that I wanted to get into. There's a couple of other things that are worth getting into, by the way. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I'm actually picking against them this weekend. I think the Chargers are going to take them. Gronkowski's health is a question mark. Edelman hasn't been the same. Josh Gordon is gone. I do not believe Tom Brady has fallen off a cliff. I do not believe that Tom Brady can't get the job done, but I do believe no matter how good you throw the ball, there are people who have to go out there and make plays for you like they customarily did throughout their careers. And the fact is the New England Patriots compared to these Chargers, led by Derwin James and the crew, and Joey Bosa and the crew, and Ingram and the crew. Let me tell you something right now. The Los Angeles Chargers are no joke. And I'm going to give them love and respect where it's due. And Anthony Lynn is doing an outstanding job. A minority coach, by the way, doing an outstanding job. Since everybody wants to ignore the 65% winning percentage that Mike Tomlin has in Pittsburgh, let me tell you another guy. Anthony Lynn is doing a great job. And Phillip Rivers, who's missed the playoffs 7 of their last 8 years, he's due, some would say. The Chargers, top to bottom, talent-wise, are a better team. They should not lose this game, even though Phillip Rivers is 0 for 7 against the Patriots. They should not lose this game. And if they lose this game, shame on them. Because New England's not better than them. I know it's in Foxborough. I know it's against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I know the Patriots going to be ready because they had a bye week and they're rested and healthy. I get all of that. The Los Angeles Chargers should be ready for this. Period. And I think that's something that's important to say. Kansas City, that's my biggest worry. Because the Chiefs and this horrid, pathetic defense, everybody want to talk about they can't stop the run. They can't stop the run. You know what? The Kansas City Chiefs can't stop a cold. They couldn't stop a cold. They couldn't stop the sniffles. Even if they gave them some Sudafed decongestant, some Mucinex, whatever the hell it is. Advil, it don't matter. Motrin don't matter. Ibuprofen don't matter. They couldn't stop a damn thing. Their defense stinks. But offensively, they're legit. The problem is they haven't been the same since Kareem Hunt has stepped away. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what transpires in that regard because I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs and I'm looking at this kid, Patrick Mahomes, and obviously he's my league MVP. Once upon a time, I thought it was Drew Brees. But Drew Brees, after that beatdown at the hands of Dallas, hasn't been the same, at least until the last week of the season. Actually, he didn't play the last week of the season, so I apologize about that. But he wasn't the same from that point forward. I'm just looking at them right now. Patrick Mahomes, 5,000 yards passing, 66% completions, 50 touchdowns, and just 12 interceptions. A QBR of 82, sacked just 26 times in 16 games. So he's been protected for the most part. Unfortunately, Kareem Hunt is gone, and we all know why. And so as a result of that, Damian Williams, Spencer Ware filled in. Damian Williams is filled in nice, averaging better than 5 yards a carry. I think the Chiefs have to run the football effectively. I think they got to work to keep the ball out of Andrew Luck's hands. I think that they need to put up points. The Chiefs will need to score at least 35 to win this game. I'm going to pick them to do it, but with strong trepidation. If there's a team that's a road team that could easily win this week, it is the Indianapolis Colts, because Andrew Luck, Marlon Mack, T.Y. Hilton, and those boys are big time. And Eric Ebron was the biggest pickup in the offseason, some could argue. And getting back to the NFC, look, my apologies to the Philadelphia Eagles for not giving them any chance against Chicago. I thought the weather was going to be atrocious, and as a result, that defense in that city with the talent that they had in the running game, I never trusted Trubisky, but I thought, hey, the Eagles probably with Nick Foles would lose this game. They proved me wrong. That defense showed up. I never dreamed that their defense would look that good. Props to the Eagles, but it ends now. It's been a nice run. Want to congratulate Nick Foles. I mean, I'm not going to sit up there and just fawn all over him the way some of y'all do. I mean, the way they talked about Nick Foles, married man, a beautiful father and kids, and worships the Lord so religiously and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you got the impression that, he touched you on your shoulders and you too could be healed. I mean, people was treating him like the second coming. You got to be kidding me. Nick Foles, a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, deserves our respect. I think he should be a starting quarterback in this league. I don't think he's better than Carson Wentz. I don't think he did anything last week against Chicago that Carson Wentz would not have done. But it ends now. It doesn't matter. Now you get ready to go up against the Saints in the Superdome in New Orleans. Now, you're not going to get blown out 48-7 like last time. But this is a different animal altogether. I could see this game ending like 38-20, 38-21 in favor of New Orleans. It ain't going to be quite the 48-7 blowout that you witnessed a few weeks back, but I can't see the Eagles winning this game. I'd be shocked. Wouldn't that be something, though, if the Eagles and the Cowboys won and then the NFC Championship game was back in Dallas with Philadelphia visiting them? That would be something to behold. But I don't think it's coming to that. At least one of these teams are going to lose, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be Philadelphia. So I just thought I needed to say that. 888-SAY-ESPN is 888-729-3776. One other item I wanted to get into, because I get annoyed at some of these things. The Antonio Brown saga in Pittsburgh. We know the story. Bolted out of practice last week of the season for their game against Cincinnati. Said, I'm out of here. Couldn't be reached by the coaches for a day or two. Was told that he would not play Sunday's game against the Cincinnati Bengals in the season finale because he hadn't shown up for final walkthroughs or anything like that. And showed up at the game in a fur coat, not team attire or anything like that, a fur coat or whatever the case may be. And, he's been a headache and, not the ideal team player, all this other stuff they've been saying about Antonio Brown. And you have to be a fool not to recognize that it really comes down to his relationship with Big Ben Roethlisberger. He doesn't feel he has much of one. But having said all of that, when the Steelers president, Art Rooney II, comes out and says it's hard to envision that Antonio Brown will be with the team next season, he said just letting him go is off. That's not going to happen. But trading him certainly is an option or whatever. I find this appalling. Ladies and gentlemen, production matters. For the last 6 years, Antonio Brown has had a minimum of 101 receptions a season. He's had a minimum of either 1237 or 1287. I forgot what the number was. But he's got one or the other when it comes to his level of production per season in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. Antonio Brown is arguably the greatest receiver in the game today. Without question. He's had a minimum of 1,284 yards over the last 6 seasons. 1,499 in 2013, 1,698 in 2014, 1,834 in 2015, 1,284 in 2016, 1,533 in 2017, 1,297 in 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, these are elite numbers. Now, I understand that they have another number one in Juju Smith-Schuster. And I understand the notion that in some people's eyes, sometimes more, less is more. I don't believe that here. Antonio Brown is under contract through 2020. I'm not letting him go. I'm not letting him go. Forget the cap hit of $21.9 million, all this other stuff. This brother is an elite player and an elite receiver. I am not losing Antonio Brown. Figure it out. I'm not absolving him. I'm not saying he didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying he's not a headache. I'm not saying that to some degree, look, listen, he's not cancerous. But guess what? You may not have found a cure for cancer, but there's a lot of things going on. Research continues to develop. Chemotherapy, radiation, and beyond. And I'm not joking about those things. Obviously, one has nothing to do with the other, but that's a highly sensitive subject to me because we know I lost my mother to that. God rest her wonderful soul. What I am saying is let's be clear about something. This notion that because somebody is a headache, get rid of them. I'm saying when you're that elite, figure it out. Let me tell you something that Antonio Brown don't want to do. Antonio Brown does not want to sit home. He ain't going to sit home and miss out on his money. He's going to play. And if he's going to play, he's going to want to be elite because he's not going to want his cachet to fall off. He's universally recognized as one of the elite players at wide receiver in this game. He's universally recognized as one of the hardest workers. Figure it out. He ain't getting along with Ben Roethlisberger. Make them get along. He's not listening to authoritative figures. Make it in his best interest to do that. He does not have to smile in your face, have Thanksgiving dinner with you, go shop Christmas gifts with you, and all of that other stuff. He just has to play. This notion that everybody's got to be best friends and get along in order to produce results is nonsense. He's Antonio Brown. Now, I'm not saying you don't trade it for nothing, mind you. I mean, if somebody knocks on the Steelers' door tomorrow and offers them 3 or 4 first-round picks, or the Atlanta Falcons call with 2 first-round picks and Julio Jones, or if the Giants called and said, we'll give you Odell Beckham Jr. for Antonio Brown and a first-round pick or something, I can understand you listening to that. But short of the spectacular offer, there is nothing to talk about. He's Antonio Brown. He's freaking Antonio Brown. Figure it out. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. By the way, gentlemen, stop lounging around. Be active. Take your girl out. Go to a game or a concert. Get tickets to something. Plus, the playoffs are upon us, and the time is now to jump on those tickets. For all your ticket needs, look no further than Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Go to vividseats.com and enter promo code ESPN to get 10% off your first order, please. Get out. Go have an experience, fellas. Get to the game and use what I use. That's Vivid Seats. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll get to your phone calls eventually, but not before we talk to my man, Louis Riddick. He's up next, NFL Insider Extraordinaire with yours truly, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Now, lo and behold, you listen to Adam Gaze, and you know what he's saying, right? What you looking at me for? It's about injuries. It's about injuries. That's all it's about. It's about injuries. That's what he's saying. Frank Gore got injured. Albert Wilson got injured. Hakeem Grant got injured. Josh Sitton got injured. A.J. Derby got injured. I get it. Ryan Tannehill wasn't healthy the entire season. I get it. Adam Gase even made a case for himself, pointing out how they were 3-0 until the injuries happened. Last time I checked, injuries were a part of football. Last time I checked, it wasn't an excuse for anybody else. So I don't want to come across, and I want to be careful here, because I'm not trying to come across by saying Adam Gase can't coach. Adam Gase doesn't deserve a job. I'm trying to say it's New York. It's the Jets. New Yorkers have been starving for something to be hopeful about and enthused about for quite some time. When Rex Ryan first arrived on the scene, it was back-to-back AFC Championship games. When Bill Parcells arrived on the scene, it was a trip to the AFC Championship game. Outside of that, Herm Edwards took you to the playoffs a couple of times. But you knew they weren't going to do anything. If Vernie Testaverde doesn't go down, forcing my man Keyshawn Johnson to slam his hands on a podium, damn it, after telling the world he wanted the damn ball because he was looking forward to Testaverde getting him the ball, and then suddenly he gets hurt and the season's a wash, and Super Bowl aspirations go down the drain. I mean, last time I checked, injuries are always a part of it. So what you do is you have a guy here that you have now brought in who has said, look, if it wasn't for injuries, I'd have been fine. The problem is injuries happen every week in the NFL. So if that's what he's saying, what hope is there? That the Jets gonna get on the field and suddenly they ain't gonna have any injuries? This is the reason that New York Jets fans should be excited. Really? Really? I mean, this is unbelievable.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
And tough and all that stuff. You can dance and prance till you huff and puff. There's just no way you can get enough of me. Yo, Mr. Big Stuff. Louis Riddick wouldn't know anything about that. I don't know if he would know anything about that. That's some old school heavy D stuff right there. But I think he would know. Louis Riddick's on the line with me right now, NFL analyst extraordinaire. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, remember, I'm almost as old as you, so
that's
I know
true.
that.
That's true. That's true. That's true. No doubt about it. Let's get right into it, Louis Riddick. First things first, we got 4 games. Dallas, L.A., Philly, New Orleans, New England, Chargers, Kansas City, Indy. What's the most intriguing game for you?
The most intriguing, for sure, is Indianapolis at Kansas City because, you know, Indianapolis is one of those teams that people have kind of left for dead at the beginning, the first quarter of the season, the first half of the season. But because of how they're built, they're so strong down the middle, such strong play from the offensive line, strong play at quarterback, strong play from Darius Leonard at linebacker on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they've got tremendous character, tremendous team speed now, and they're very, very physical. Going up against a team that doesn't play very good defense, that isn't really one of the best all-around teams in the NFL, but they have a quarterback that is just basically taking the NFL by storm. And it's one of those where, and we talked about this earlier today, it's one of those where there's going to be a lot of pressure on that team, that being the Chiefs, being at home, being coached by Andy Reid, being a franchise that hasn't had a lot of success in the playoffs, and being coached by a coach who, after all this time, as much as he's respected, man, he just has not been able to get to the Super Bowl and win it. So I think that's the one where there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot at stake for the Chiefs to lose at home as the number 1 seed would just be catastrophic to this season, given everything that Patrick's done. And then the Colts could be like that Cinderella football team. Could the Colts, after being left for dead, actually make it to the Super Bowl if they were able to pull this game off? I say they could.
Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio. By the way, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, protecting commercial vehicles and offering specialized coverages designed to protect your business. More at progressivecommercial.com. Louis, when you talk about the Indianapolis Colts, I see that offensive line and the manner in which they protect Andrew Luck, and I think I think these boys are monsters. They are no joke. I'll tell you somebody else that I think needs to be protected this weekend. I think it's Jared Goff. I mean, when you got DeMarcus Lawrence and the crew scheduled to come after him, this is in Los Angeles. They don't have home field advantage, even though the game is in L.A., because Dallas Cowboy fans travel. And if there was ever a place to travel with no problem, it would be Southern California. You know, everybody's looking to go out there. What are your thoughts about that game?
Yeah, that's one. I'm picking the Cowboys in that game. I think that game is set up for for an upset.
You just did that, but you just did that to upset me. You did it to upset me. You did it to upset me, Louis.
So you know when you put aside your disdain for the Cowboy Nation, you know you can see it. You can see it on the horizon that they could definitely pull this off. And quite honestly, it wouldn't surprise you. Why? Because defensively they play a high pressure, high intensity style defense, and by that I mean, they're up in your face, man. This team does not back off of you at all. They run to the ball as hard and as fast in unison as any defense in the NFL. That's the way Chris Richard demands it. That's the way Rod Marinelli demands it. And some of the matchups on the front seven really favor them when you're talking about Dallas' defense versus the Rams' offense. Watch the Rams' offensive right side of the offensive line. It's a problem. Watch their right tackle, Rob Havenstein, versus DeMarcus Lawrence, the left defensive end for the Cowboys. That favors the Cowboys all day long. One of the last times that we saw Jared Goff play, and you know how much I respect him, how much I respect Sean McVay. Right. His eyes were as wide as UFOs looking at the Philadelphia Eagles front seven led by Fletcher Cox and Michael Bennett come after him and get pressure off of that right side. Fletcher tore them apart. Michael Bennett tore them apart, and Jared had no time, looked totally rattled, unnerved, and I'm telling you, I would not be shocked to see the same thing happen in this game.
So what do you expect more? For Jared Goff not to show up, or for Dak Prescott, along with Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan, to have some problems?
Interesting. I would expect Jared to have a tougher time because of the style of defense that Dallas plays. Dak is Aaron's going to lay hands on Dak at some point, Aaron Donald. He'll get him at some point. But I think overall, that defense for the Rams is just so unpredictable in terms of how hard and how consistent they play. They just are. And I think the best way to treat a defense like that and make sure you put them on their heels is to go downhill right at them and continue to pound them, and then take opportunistic shots over the top. That's how every team has frustrated and gotten after this defense, and that's how Dallas can play. So if they stay true to their identity, that being Dallas's offense, being a run-first offense, play-action pass, use Dak on the zone read now and then, make sure the threat of him being a runner is something that the Rams don't forget, particularly down in the red area, this is going to be a problematic game for the Rams.
So how much of a chance, considering that, and I know that you picked the Cowboys. Let's go to the Eagles and the Saints, because how much of a chance are you giving the reigning defending Super Bowl champions to go into New Orleans and pull off that upset?
I'm going to give them a chance simply because their DNA, which is something I believe in with all sports teams, is that of a champion. They know that everyone is counting them out. They know that people like myself poke holes in their team and say that the secondary is suspect, regardless of the fact that they're playing better right now than they have, in the first three quarters of the season. They know that I'm saying that they don't have a real strong, consistent running game. They do it by committee. They know that I say that even at linebacker, they don't have the star power some other teams have, but still they play great team complementary football. So I always give them a shot. The problem is you're coming into the home of a Saints team that is well-rested, a fan base that is anxious to get out there and party like no other fan base can in terms of how they celebrate a football game. Mm-hmm. You're talking about one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Drew Brees, one of the great play callers of all time in Sean Payton, two of the best running backs in the NFL that complement each other perfectly, one of the best offensive lines in the league, period, in the Saints offensive line, and a defense for the Saints that's been basically carrying this football team for the better part of the past month as the offense has started to struggle.
Real Real quick answer from you. What are your expectations of Patrick Mahomes in this game? This is his first year quarterback in this team. What do you expect from him, his first playoff game?
I expect Pat to play like he's always played. He's never let that team down as far as being able or producing spectacular plays and giving them a chance to win. I expect no different from that.
Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Last question for you, or actually second to last question. Your thoughts about the Antonio Brown situation in Pittsburgh? I know you're familiar with what's going on.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those where obviously ownership has sent a clear message as to where they stand as far as how they feel he's conducted himself and what they feel is best for their football team going forward. When ownership comes out and talks, you know it's pretty much a done deal. Pittsburgh Steelers ownership is not an ownership group or an ownership family that would put their foot in their mouth and kind of, reverse course and say, you know what, we changed our mind. They seem very deliberate and very precise in terms of their thinking. It's when they go public and start talking about something, and for them to say what they've said, as far as not being willing to just cut him, but they don't foresee any scenario where he'd be back on the football team. I think the writing's on the wall. Someone will get a great player, and Antonio Brown, no question about it.
Last question to you, Louis Riddick. You obviously do an outstanding job for us. We're proud to have you here. And by the way, great job all year long on Monday Night Football as well. We appreciate it. But you're also somebody who's so cerebral and so thorough in your thinking that some would argue you should have been the general manager for the New York Giants instead of Gettleman. You've watched what's transpired over the last week or so. You see no minorities getting hired for head coaching positions, and you know the numbers. League 70% black in players, only 2 black head coaches, 1 black GM, no black owners, no black president of football operations, anything like that. Your thoughts real quick.
Yeah, there aren't enough minority coaches in the pipeline, Stephen A., at the critical positions, those being quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, that team ownership is looking for right now to bring up to the head coaching level when they're looking to hire new people. There just aren't enough minorities in the pipeline. There just aren't. They're being directed to coach other positions, and that's a problem. That's why when minority coaches get fired, like they did in mass this year, there aren't enough candidates really in the pipeline at those positions that ownership is looking for. And look, I'm one of those who says this. Look, if you suck, you suck. If you're black, you're white, it doesn't matter to me. And I'll call it out both ways. So the guys who got fired, who are minorities, you deserve to get fired. Todd didn't get the job done. Marvin didn't get the job done. Hugh didn't get the job done. Steve Wilkes, that's a little bit debatable. But if you don't get the job done, then you're out. I don't care. And I'll hammer you just the same as I would any other coach. But there aren't enough people in the pipeline being groomed at the position groups that people look for, and you can't deny it. And anybody who tells you otherwise, you might want to look at them a little bit